Support comes from Sunday Morning Cafe, presenting Resilience and Creativity, a concert and interview with Royce Martin, creator of Swag Time, and resilience researcher Dr. Tom Wagner on August 2nd, sundaymorningcafe.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. That itchy bump on your arm and annoying buzz in your ear are trademarks of a Midwestern summer full of mosquitoes. And this year's warm temperatures, high rainfall, and humidity are making mosquitoes thrive. We want to hear from you about your experience with mosquitoes. What have you found to be most effective at treating mosquito bites? What mosquito bite prevention measures are you taking this summer to deal with those thriving biters? Send an email to talk@stlpr.org or call us at 314-382-8255. That's 314-382-TALK. With us now to talk about all things mosquitoes is Jean Ponzi, environmentalist and green resources manager at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Jean, welcome back.
Happy to be here, Elaine.
We also have Missouri Extension urban entomologist Emily Althoff on the line. Emily, welcome back to you as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk today.
So let's get started with mosquito populations and what is happening. What has this summer been like? And are you seeing or feeling more mosquitoes than a typical year, Jean?
So the first mosquito that I felt land on me, I experienced in about the end of April. That was a little bit early in my yard, in my neighborhood in the city of St. Louis. There has been an uptick in mosquitoes. I wouldn't call it a really swarmy time. And in checking with my colleague Jim Sayers, who's the head of vector control with St. Louis County, we're not having a super big, there's plenty of mosquitoes, no big disease concerns yet. No new species of concern in our area. And one of the good things about, rain, heat, rain is a recipe for mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. But when we have heavy rains, that washes out storm drains and sewer pipes where Culex mosquitoes tend to reproduce.
Yeah.
So the heavy rains actually are an advantage. But when the rain slows down and the heat kicks up, then it'll be mosquito world.
Mm-hmm. What are you seeing, Emily, where you are?
I would have to echo similar sentiments where we were seeing those heavier rains that were washing out some of the more stagnant regions where mosquitoes really thrive. And as long as the habitats aren't consistently stagnant, we're not necessarily quite as concerned. So even though we're seeing a lot of rain, that heavier rain seems to have been helping.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything about conditions that mosquitoes thrive in that people typically, are not thinking about that, warrant some review, especially as we are dealing with these rising temperatures and then the on and offness of the rainfall?
Well, one concern that I have, Elaine, is still that we have a fair amount of debris down in North St. Louis. We still have tree debris. We still have illegally dumped stuff or stuff that hasn't been cleaned up yet. Anything that holds standing water, whether that's an indentation in a branch or a tire or, something out of somebody's kitchen that just is in a pile of trash, that is mosquito breeding prime area. And so people who are already struggling with heat and with issues with their finances and with their lodging are going to be excessively impacted again by mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm. What kind of measures do you recommend that people take to sort of mosquito-proof the areas that are closest to them, Jean?
Well, if you can clean up mosquito breeding habitat, that's really good. Everybody can't. We still have debris down in parts of the city, and that's an issue for folks that are struggling with that on many levels. Having window screens be in good repair is really important when you're sleeping, when you're waking up, when your kids are napping, if elders are in the house. If you can't control mosquito breeding, use a mosquito repellent.
Mm-hmm. And on the note of repellents, we heard from Becky, who says that for treatment, at least, of mosquito bites, jewelweed is something that's used. It grows naturally in my mom's garden, and she used it to rub it on my kids' mosquito bites all the time. It worked like a charm. Is something like jewelweed, these natural sources of relief for itching, do they also work for prevention, Jean?
No, not necessarily for prevention, Elaine. And jewelweed, I wasn't aware of that as a itch control for the body's response to a mosquito bite. I know that it works for poison ivy, so you often will find that plant growing with poison ivy. Whatever works, if it works for you, use it.
Yeah. Earlier, Jean, you had mentioned one of the types of mosquitoes out there. Emily, what can you tell us about just how many mosquito species there are in the world?
There are a lot of different mosquito species within the world. I don't necessarily have a count off of the top of my head, but there's only a handful that we frequently consider as pests or as medical nuisances. There are actually a lot of other species globally that may be food sources for other organisms.
Food sources for what organisms specifically?
Things like frogs or other invertebrates or even birds and other organisms.
Bats, dragonflies. Dragonflies are the number one predator of mosquitoes. And they cohabit in the places where mosquitoes tend to breed, in ponds and little places.
Yeah.
So if you have a pond on your property or on your school grounds or whatever, and you have a biodiverse planting around that will attract mosquito predators like dragonflies, then that still water is not going to be a breeding habitat. But if it's just a hole in the wall in the ground that holds water, there you got mosquito breeding.
The mosquitoes that we're going to see in our area, Jean, there are how many that we're going to see out of how many that exist?
To my understanding, Elaine, there are over 3,500 unique species of mosquitoes on the planet Earth. And I was doing a little research and came up with how many species are unique to every single country. We have a number of species in Missouri, but of the ones that we have, there are, I believe, really only two kinds that can carry diseases of concern to humans. Culex pipiens, the house mosquito, it's a little brown mosquito, is the one that can potentially transmit West Nile virus. And then we also have the tiger mosquito that I know people have seen. It's a beautiful mosquito with black and white stripes, tiny little mosquito. That can carry Zika virus, but its cousin, Aedes albopictus, Aedes aegypti, a little bit bigger tiger mosquito, we don't have here yet in Missouri. And our entomologists, our vector control public health specialists are on the lookout for species of concern moving into Missouri, moving into our area, as climate change causes all kinds of populations to move.
We're going to take a very quick break here, but we will come back shortly to continue this conversation about mosquitoes. But we also want to hear from you. What have you found to be most effective at warding off mosquitoes and treating mosquito bites? Are there certain prevention measures you're taking this year that you have not in the past? Send us an email at talk@stlpr.org or give us a call. Our number is 314-382-8255. That's 314-382-TALK. We'll be right back. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio.
Support comes from Gemma, architects, planners, and designers seeking to bring joy to their clients and communities. Details at gemastl.com.
Welcome back. Let's return to our conversation about mosquitoes with Emily Althoff of Missouri Extension and Jean Ponzi of Missouri Botanical Garden. Before the break, Jean, you had mentioned some of the diseases that mosquitoes can carry. And mosquitoes are, in fact, the deadliest animals on Earth. The mosquito kills more people than any other creature in the world, and a majority of the deaths from mosquitoes, they do occur in sub-Saharan Africa, so that's some distance from where we are. We do have disease-carrying mosquitoes in St. Louis, and you said that there's a certain mosquito that is not here yet?
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a couple. We don't have the kinds of mosquitoes that can transmit malaria here in Missouri. Malaria is a parasite. Typically, mosquitoes transmit viral diseases, but the species of mosquito that is the ideal vector of Zika virus, Aedes aegypti, we do not have yet here in the St. Louis area, in the Missouri area, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we heard from Angela. Angela says, I have quite a few native plants in my yard that
Yay.
attract mosquito-killing birds and bugs, but I also create mosquito traps in my bird baths with dunks. It's not a perfect solution, but it reduces the number of mosquitoes in my yard by about half compared to my neighbors. So for long periods outside, Angela says, I like Picardin lotion. Works great without the greasy feel and no DEET. We also heard from Beth, who says, I'm trying to encourage bats, possums, and other pest-eating creatures, or critters, that is, to be around my house by giving them natural spaces to thrive. I'm also going to try the catnip lotion, and I'm using citronella oils and candles. I still use bug spray, too. These approaches, Emily, are they ones that you have heard about? And as we think about ecology and how there are other animals that eat mosquitoes, is this a good way to go?
Well, I'm always going to be excited when I hear that folks are planting native plants in their yards and encouraging native habitats, because that just helps the general ecosystem. And in addition to assisting with having some different mosquito predators within the environment. I also have heard of folks using those dunks before, especially in rainwater collection systems or within bird baths, especially if it's using something called BTI, which is a specific strain of bacteria. And then the other thing I believe that was mentioned was utilizing bug sprays, and that would be one of the number one things that I would recommend if you yourself are going to be spending time outdoors, using EPA-approved products.
Mm-hmm. We have Mary, who is calling from South County. Mary, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Okay, at the beginning of the season, I'd say end of May, I got 3 different bites. One on the back of my arm, one on my cheek near my ear, and one on my throat that lasted for 2 weeks. It welted up. It was very red and 2 inches in width, because I took a ruler and measured it.
Oh, wow.
It was horribly itchy. And the only thing I could stop the itching with was Benadryl tablet. And if you notice for smaller bites, if you notice that you got bit, there's a product at a drugstore called the Bug Bite thing.
Yes.
And that's the name of it. I think it's patented under that. And you hold it in your hand and you place it over the bite and you pull up the suction and it draws the venom out. Mm-hmm. It works best if you use it as soon as you know you've been stung or bitten by one of these mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. And it rids you of the venom.
Yeah. So thank you so much for calling, Mary. And I know exactly what you are talking about. I bought one of those a few summers ago. So is what Mary is talking about, Jean, is it really venom?
Well, there's it's more like an anesthetic. Mm-hmm. What the mosquito injects is something that anesthetizes your skin so that the mosquito can extract blood from a host. That's why a mosquito is biting you. It's taking blood to get protein to produce eggs. It's a reproductive strategy. It's not a nutritional strategy. And the different people have a different reaction to that, just like we have different reactions to foods and other kinds of irritants. I don't know if I would call it venom, but it definitely is an irritant.
Mm-hmm. And to treat mosquito bites, Dorian says that they use a metal spoon. heats it under hot water, presses it onto the bite, and holds it. They say it will break down the enzyme mosquitoes inject to prevent blood clotting while they feed. This is what causes the itching sensation. Once the enzyme is completely broken down, it shouldn't itch anymore. Emily, is there any validity to the idea that heat breaks down mosquito spit?
That, I will be honest, that is a new one for me. I have not heard that one before, and so I'm not quite sure.
Jean,
there are a lot of what I would call folk remedies, knowledge, people's knowledge of how to deal with stuff like this. And if you want to be sure according to science and according to recommendations by entities like the US EPA, there are those guidelines. But if there's something that you know works for you, use it.
Yeah, just keep doing it. We have Joanne who is calling from St. Louis. Joanne, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. I was interested in this program a few years ago. You had a speaker from the Botanical Garden who spoke about why spraying your yard or the vector control spraying that the county does or did doesn't work because it kills, I think, the mosquitoes or just the larvae for a very short time, and it kills beneficial insects as well. And I'm hoping that your speaker can make that point more clearly than I just did.
Okay, sure. Joanne, thank you for being a long-time listener. Jean, it may have been you.
Could
We
have been.
also spoke with Ricardo Ray. What can you supply as far as knowledge here?
So 2 things in response to that, Elaine. Bug fogging kills bugs, period. It does not differentiate between insect species. And when a municipality drives their fogging truck through neighborhoods, spewing out chemical, that chemical is only going to affect the adult flying insects that the spray contacts. It does nothing to interrupt mosquito breeding and absolutely will harm other flying insects that spray contacts. Now, I got to give a shout out to St. Louis County. They practice the nth degree of ecological mosquito management. Most of what they do, contracting for most of our county municipalities for mosquito control services, is surveillance and trapping and evaluating the kinds of mosquitoes that are active in an area. And when there's pest mosquito species, that's one thing. That's kind of on us to protect ourselves from. But when there is an uptick in the biting populations of the kinds of insects that can carry disease, that is the only time that St. Louis County will run a very targeted fogging route. And they calibrate their equipment so that the droplet size is really tiny so that it affects a tiny insect like a mosquito, but it's less likely to be harmful to a larger insect like a bee or a butterfly. Those protections are the best that you can do to still protect public health. On the other hand, when you hire someone to come in and fog your yard, and there's a guarantee that fogging will keep your yard mosquito-free for 30 days, that means that every plant in your yard that's treated with that stuff is a death trap for every insect that lands on it for that entire time.
Well, I'm going to come to you, Emily, because you said you were pleased to hear about native plants, but killing off other insects seems to be not the best way to deal with a single pest, even one as bothersome as and potentially dangerous as a mosquito. So what is it that we do know about the effectiveness of fogging, Emily? And how does it affect other insect species?
Yes, I would reiterate a lot of what Joan said or what Jean said in the component of it reduces the adult populations, and it's important when we have those disease concerns like West Nile, especially in St. Louis. But it's not eliminating those populations. There's the possibility that mosquitoes can move back into those lawns. There's also the possibility that there's also the component where they're not able to target the eggs or the larvae that are living in aquatic systems. And so those are eventually going to develop and come back. And so while it can be a tool for those disease concerns, it's not necessarily the single solution. You can't necessarily say we're just going to do this.
So what
some of the things that are...
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So some of the things that are really important to consider, and this goes back to our conversation earlier, is ensuring there's no stagnant water on your property. I know that that's really difficult in some regions that have, especially like St. Louis, that have experienced tornado damage, and there may be economic barriers to doing so. But if you have things like equipment in your yard, if you have gutters that may be clogged, ensuring that those things aren't retaining stagnant water can be really beneficial in reducing the amount of larval habitat on your property.
If you can't clean your gutters, or if you have a neighbor that is in ill health or is elderly and can't do that, can you offer to help with that? If you have corrugated drain pipes coming out from your downspouts, that's ideal mosquito breeding habitat because every one of those little corrugations can hold standing water. One of the things you can do is you can cast a little bit of BTI, the stuff that you get in mosquito dunks, up that drain pipe. It changes the chemistry of water so that mosquito larvae can't develop. It literally makes their guts explode, which is kind of poetic justice, I think.
Sure.
So that's there are treatments, they're kind of multifaceted treatments that you can do, but not everyone can do that. And that's why if you're outdoors, using a good mosquito repellent is the best thing you can do so that you as a moving target are less visible to a mosquito. And if you're sitting outdoors and you can plug in an electric fan, that's even better. Mosquitoes are wimpy flyers and they can't land on you in a good stiff breeze and you will be cool.
We're talking today with Jean Ponzi, environmentalist and green resources manager at the Missouri Botanical Garden, and Emily Althoff. She's an urban entomologist at University of Missouri Extension. When water collects, how long before it qualifies as stagnant?
Well, is it standing or is it moving? If it's stagnant, there's plant matter decomposing in it, and that's what mosquito larvae are going to eat as they are going through their development. So that's part of why mosquitoes are attracted to that. It's nourishment for their larvae. But if water is flushed away, then that also flushes away the mosquito eggs. And the person who mentioned the bird baths, specifically, bird baths are typically not a problem because you empty them every other day or so, fresh water and good health for the birds. It's anything like a pond. If you have a little pond on your property and it doesn't have a little burble, it doesn't have any moving water, that is ideal mosquito breeding. A pool cover, a wheelbarrow, your dog's frisbee left out in the yard, the saucers under plants on your patio, those are all mosquito breeding areas that you can either eliminate or put some some mosquito dunk stuff in there to explode larval guts.
On that note, Dwight, we have calling from Dutchtown. Dwight, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I grew up on the East Coast where I was plagued, just horribly plagued by mosquitoes in the New Jersey and Long Island region. Moved out here, and I seem to be enjoying a kind of weird immunity. I'm outside lots. I'm a musician and I practice on my back deck on my saxophone, and that's not not out.
I don't think mosquitoes like saxophones. I think they prefer trombones.
My wife, however, spent 35 years in Indonesia, and her last offshore residence was in Singapore, and she is a gardener and has an enormous garden in the back, and she gets chewed on horribly and sprays every night when she gets home before she goes out to tend the garden with insect repellent. But even with that, she gets bombed. So I'm just puzzled by this weird what causes some people to be vulnerable and some people to not seem to suffer any problems at all from
Dwight, thank you. Yes, I have this question as well. What makes some people magnets and others not?
Body chemistry. Mosquitoes are primarily attracted by carbon dioxide. That's also what attracts ticks and chiggers, and all mammals respire. We exhale carbon dioxide. So that's the primary attractant. But mosquitoes are also attracted by other parts of body chemistry, lactic acid when you're exercising. If you wear fragrance, summer is a really good time to go fragrance-free with cologne, body wash, laundry detergent. Fragrance attracts mosquitoes. Darker colors attract mosquitoes. But body chemistry changes person to person, and it can change as we go through life. As we age, if you're pregnant, if you go through an immunocompromised situation, population. So one person may not be attractive to mosquitoes now, but would have been earlier. That's a body chemistry thing. And therefore, if there's a mosquito repellent that works for your body chemistry, whether that's plant-based like catnip oil or lemon eucalyptus or picaridin, or whether you have to go with DEET, use it.
Mm-hmm. We're going to do a very quick lightning round of some questions so that people are leaving this segment maybe with more answers than questions. And this is a fact versus fiction kind of thing and a true or false game. So I'll direct these questions to each of you, starting with Emily. True or false, only female mosquitoes bite?
That's true. So female mosquitoes are biting and feeding on blood to, I believe Jean said this earlier, enhance their reproductive capacity. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the females are biting.
Okay. Jean, mosquitoes prefer certain blood types. True or false?
False. That is false. And how much sugar you eat and your temperament, all of that has no bearing on it. It's a combination of body chemistry factors.
Mm-hmm. Emily, a mosquito won't bite the same person twice. True or false?
That's false. If they're not interrupted, there's definitely the possibility that they could go back and feed on the same person again.
That's not the answer I wanted to hear.
I know.
Yeah,
sorry.
No. Look, we are here to educate. Jean, mosquitoes can detect our breath from a distance of more than 30 feet?
Yes, mosquitoes have extraordinary sensory capabilities. And the more I learn about them, the more I respect them, and I always swat them.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we close, we're going to hear from one more caller, and that is Dave in Chesterfield. Dave, welcome.
Hi. Good morning. I wanted to recommend something that I just discovered this year. I have a pool, and I use chlorine tablets in it. And it occurred to me that I could put a chlorine tablet in my bird baths to keep it clean, and it does a wonderful job. And I use about half one of these 3-inch tablets in each bird bath. I've got 2 of them. And it keeps it perfectly clean, and I believe it retards the production of mosquitoes. And I wondered if the callers or if your guests have any comment on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a perfect way to keep your bird bath clean. Just put half a tablet chlorine. It lasts about 2 weeks.
Okay, Dave, thank you for calling. Jean.
Well, you're putting chlorine in water that you want birds to drink. There is a certain amount of chlorine in tap water, so if you're using tap water in your bird baths, you're getting some there. But adding that, I would not call that healthy for birds. Also, bird baths are the least culprit of the water-holding things on our properties because we tend to change them every day or every other day. It's things that hold water over long times or things that we're not paying attention to that hold water that are the mosquito breeding habitats.
Mm-hmm. And Emily, anything to add to that?
No, I think that she's right on with that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
can I give one more shout out to local municipalities and native plant advocates, Elaine? So not every local government does their own mosquito fogging. Not every county government in our area has the capacity to track mosquitoes and evaluate the kinds of mosquitoes that we have. We have wonderful cooperation between those local government entities, and we still have the myth in some communities that driving trucks around and fogging for mosquitoes is a good public service. So if that's happening in your community, there are good advocacy networks that you can connect up to that can help you communicate with your local elected officials to right-size those kinds of practices. And then if people in your neighborhood are hiring mosquito control agencies that are using chemicals, have conversations with them. We have a Green Resources Information Service at the Garden, greenresources@mobot.org, that can answer these questions and help network to people who are doing a good job. The more we learn about ecology, the better neighbors we can be to all of our biological neighbors and the ones that we swat.
Mm-hmm. Jean Ponzi is environmentalist and green resources manager at the Missouri Botanical Garden, and Emily Althoff is a Missouri Extension urban entomologist. Now, we've heard lots of remedies for mosquito bites that we've shared on today's show, and there are many more that we could not get to. To see all of the balms and tricks to keep itching at bay, you can visit St. Louis Public Radio's Facebook page. Thank you both for joining us today. And to all of you out there, stay safe from mosquitoes.
This episode was produced by Emily Woodbury.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.